Morning, everyone, and welcome to Community Affairs. Today, our guest is Jakob. He is with it's an important hub, and he is got this key piece that is new and it's making progress, and we love it. He's that connector looking for entrepreneurs, looking for business startups, being that liaison, and he is also all underneath the MCED big umbrella. But this is a new thing that is doing that. And basically, my best way to define what he does is he's that personal liaison and outreach from MCED to our businesses and startups, to making sure that they have everything that they need to get going before they open their door. And so he is going to present what he's doing. They have an upcoming another event that they're working on, and he will do that in just a moment, but we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves, who you are and which organization, so that he knows who's in the room. He probably knows most of you, but we want to do this as a courtesy, so he makes sure which organizations are here. Some of you represent more than one and more than two. So make sure that you say, oh, the organizations that you wear your hats for. It's important so that he knows who our partners for business and for community are here in our area. So I'm going to start with Miss Corliss. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. It's Corliss Marsh. I'm with the Senior Center, the library, the College Foundation, and Habitat for Humanity. I just want to remind everyone or tell everyone that this Saturday, the library, the Friends of the Library, is putting on a book sale, and we have a bag sale. So the prices go down by the hours from 9 to noon at the upper parking lot book barn.
And there is my perfect case in point. She wears multiple hats, and so this is a key connector and leader in our community. So Scott, okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Scott McKay. I'm the community liaison for Circles of Care, which is an initiative of Age Plus, a statewide nonprofit. And Circles of Care, we connect older adults who need some kind of periodic support, such as transportation, friendly visits, grocery shopping, with volunteers to provide that service. Thank you, Lisa.
You, Dan Spots.
Good morning. Thank you, Lisa. Dan Spots, Economic Development Officer, City of the Dalles, staff to Columbia Gateway Urban Renewal District, OSU Extension Advisory Committee, and right now with members from the Port and County, the Dalles Community Outreach Team in Washington, D.C. Just leaving, returning home today, and be very glad to get home. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you guys for your hard work over there in D.C. Phil Brady.
Good morning, Phil Brady. I'm showing off our new, let's get the right angle here.
There you go.
Yeah, new Wasco County building on 3rd Street. The building is now, our finance office is in the building as well. Also, you'll find the assessor's office in the building, and Veterans Affairs, and who else is coming? Well, then some of our internal folks are in there. Plus my own entrance is on 3rd Street for the assessor's office. We'll get some maps out. It's nice to have more people in the building to see folks around.
Great, thank you. Dave Peters.
Good morning, Dave Peters, Columbia Cascade Housing, Mid-Columbia Housing Authority. On a staffing note, my replacement was hired yesterday, so now we're going to transition over the next few months, probably leaving or at least going to part-time in the year. And we have interviews for our real estate developer starting next week, so hopefully we can find somebody. But if you know anybody that's done low-income housing development, still send them our way. We've not made any decisions yet. So we got big projects going, Rand Road and Hood River, 130 apartments. Smaller one, but still large for the Dalles, 80 units where DeHart's Market used to be, or I guess it sort of still is, but we're going to be starting over on that site. So, and then I'm of course involved trying to get community land trust things going. So thanks.
Awesome, congratulations. But you better be here still every Thursday. Yeah. It's a positive yes. So All right, I see a couple people that are not on a screen, so I'm going to call out the names that I see. And if you want to introduce yourself, go ahead. And I see Brian Tuck is there.
Brian Tuck, retired Oregon State University, chief child care officer here for our family, getting ready for our little kids.
And the busiest grandpa ever. So yes, you have an important job. I see Marilyn.
Good morning. I am a recently retired community member taking a larger interest on what's going on in our community.
Awesome. We love that. Thank you. Anytime you want to be participating, please join us. All of our events are open to everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. And it looks like Daniel Williams. If he's got strong enough signal where he's at. Well, I know that Daniel Williams is Williams Woodworking. He also now has another new small business venture that he just started. He is actually sits on our he's one of our main ambassadors and doing different things. And so he's crucial and very integrated into the chamber. And so he is a board member. Sorry, I can't leave that one out. So anyway, he is doing all kinds of things, and there is Daniel's introduction. So with that, I don't see anybody else trying to get in. Did I get everybody on the screen? I think I did. So with that, Jakob Lillvik, his official title, so this is why I introduced him the way I did earlier, Venture Catalyst Project Manager for the Mid-Columbia Innovation Hub, which is all underneath MCED. And so he's just been moving and shaking and really trying to do some outreach and doing some hubs and all those different types of things to really get our businesses familiar or businesses to be what the possibilities are and what's there for them on that road. I think that's what I've got, mostly, but he's going to correct and give you the full introduction. So I'm going to hand it over. I will try to watch for questions for you because I know when you're sharing screen, it makes it a little bit tough. So I will try to watch for hands raised or in the chat. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you put them there or raise your hand. Or if I don't see you after a little bit, just turn off your mic and turn on your mic and just do a little shout. And because we want to make sure that Jakob gets those questions as they arise with his topic. So it's all yours, sir.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick so you can see my presentation. Everyone see that okay? Well, again, thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
My name is Jakob Lillvik, Venture Catalyst Project Manager with Mid-Columbia Economic Development, working on Mid-Columbia Innovation Hub. As frustrating as it is, I try to avoid all of my acronyms as much as possible because for so long, and if you've been in this community for a while, and if you weren't like really in the work, you might hear MCED and you're like, I know that that's a thing, but I don't know what they do. I don't know how to describe what they do. Maybe talking to the wrong crowd here, but I hear that comment a lot. And so a big part of the presentation, why I'm thankful that the chamber allowed me to come speak for you, is to fill in some of that information so you can have a good idea of what the Innovation Hub is doing underneath the umbrella of Mid-Columbia Economic Development District. So I'll give a little bit of a background of how the hub came to be, of what we're doing, of how we fall in line with MCED, and what our plans are for the future. So first, introduce myself a little bit. Again, my name is Jakob Lillvik, Venture Catalyst Project Manager. I did not choose the title of Venture Catalyst. I thought it was a made-up term when I got hired. I thought it was just a clever play on words of venture capitalist. But I have come to find out in some of these ecosystems where they are developing entrepreneurs and small businesses, it is an intentional play on words, but it really is trying to do exactly what I'm doing, connect some of these startups and founders to the resources that they need. So they really are catalyzing these ventures in a number of different ways. I am officially employed by Mid-Columbia Economic Development District underneath the Mid-Columbia Innovation Hub. My background is mostly in hospitality and restaurant management. I had about 15 years. My most recent hospitality job was as the general manager of Freedom Family Brewers in Hood River. But I also co-funded a catering company with my former partner, rooted in the Gorge. We were in operations from 2017 to 2022. We operated out of the Columbia Gorge Discovery Center. We had a very brief stint taking over the Baldwin Saloon. And it really gave me that insight into the small business entrepreneurial world, the ups and downs of navigating that, of how difficult it can be when you just aren't aware of what resources are available to you as a starting business or an entrepreneur. I've been in Oregon for 12 years. I celebrated my 12-year anniversary in February, and I've been a homeowner in the Dalles for 9. So a quick origin story on how the Innovation Hub came to be, and it really starts with Business Oregon. Back in 2021, they put together, like we have our community economic development strategy, our CEDS with McKed. Business Oregon has many strategies, and one of them is the 10-year innovation plan. And so they have a multi-phase step and strategy through this to create and implement regional innovation hubs. So all of this is a project that's funded from Business Oregon. There are multiple hubs throughout the state. I believe there are 9 at the moment, with the goal to connect to state and nationwide resources, and then also to each other so we can collaborate and know what's going on throughout the state. And kind of, I hate the word leverage, but it is leverage our resources together. What makes these innovation hubs unique in their focus is focus on innovation, obviously, traded sector, and industry agnostic. I'll come back and define those in just a second. I thought that this quote from Oregon's innovation plan, their PDF, which I have a link there at the bottom. Oregon's innovation plan is built on the central premise that the continued vitality of Oregon's economy and the state's high quality of life rests on its ability to encourage innovation. Let's define those words a little bit. Traded sector is one I feel like I always have to define. Even in my first couple of months doing this, I was confusing traded sector with traded goods. They are different. So traded sector means industries in which member firms sell their goods or services into markets for which national or international competition exists. I like to think of it as businesses that bring any sort of outside money into the region or state. So that could be, if you're selling in a supermarket, if you have an online store and you're shipping across state lines, if there's any sort of competition outside of just the local market, you'd be considered traded sector. I think coffee shops, massage therapists, food trucks usually fit into more of a local service sector. The competition is local and not outside, and so there's a little bit of a difference there. It is great. We are all about supporting our local economy, but what we can continue to do is bring money into our community and then circulate it when we spend it as well, to keep our community thriving. We also focus on innovation. I'm a little bit of a word nerd, so I like going back to the roots of the Latin word, which literally means it's something new. I take a broad reach for that because I think a lot of times when people think of innovation, they think of research and development firms and the big tech companies. They think of apps and biotech, and it's not always that. Sometimes it's doing things in little ways. We had a panel with a company called Monkey Brittle, if you're familiar with them. They're based out of Hood River. It's a snack food that's actually really simple, and it is different. It's something I never heard. It's just like freeze dried, like bananas and nuts and raisins, and it's really addictive. If you see it, I know that they're at the farm stand. Highly recommend getting it, but I think it's kind of innovative. It's looking at things differently and solving problems that exist in some way, shape, or form. So innovation is something new, doesn't have to be technology. And we also are industry agnostic, where we have different collaborations. You think of like the Gorge STEM Hub, you think of Gorge Tech Alliance. There are some collaborations that are not agnostic, they're specific for certain industries. We want to be available to every industry. So we support all businesses, even if they're not traded sector, even if there's an argument to say that they're not innovative. We want to support everyone to keep pushing them along to catalyze their energy. And then we eventually, as we continue to move, we do end up focusing on what is prevalent here. So in the Gorge, the big businesses are tech and unmanned aircraft, as well as packaged food and beverage and agriculture. And it's interesting looking forward to see how there's an interplay in all of those. So where does MCED fall in? So Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, if you didn't know, federally designated economic district since 1969, serving Wasco, Hood River, and Sherman counties in Oregon, Skamania and Klickitat counties in Washington. Founded on the premise that in the Gorge, we're kind of our own thing. You know, we, on the Washington and Oregon side, we really want to support all of our local communities that are densely populated around each other with support for things that might not be able to be accomplished by one smaller town. You know, this isn't part of my job, but one thing that MCED does is they help write grants for sewage and wastewater treatment in small towns like Antelope and Shaniko in Wasco County. These are things that, you know, these cities of hundreds of people might not have the resources or the talent to implement and do, but this is something that an economic district can work together for the greater needs of everybody in the 5-county area. So that's what MCED does. And with this thinking in mind of wanting to represent our regionality, we applied and won the Business Oregon Planning Grant for the Innovation Hub in 2022. We partnered with a team from Eco Northwest to develop what was needed in our area in order to support startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, what gaps existed, and how we would meet the needs that were identified. So after that planning grant, it naturally follows that we also won the implementation grant starting in July of 2024. And MCED is the one who administers the grant and employs the staff, which is myself, as well as another part-time employee, Jason Hartman. He's also the liaison for the Gorge Tech Alliance. He also works with the Innovation Hub, as well as our Deputy Director, Andrew Dannies. Any questions so far? I'll keep moving along. So this is our region, Hood River, Wasco, and Sherman counties. And I put it up right against all of the regions in Oregon. I try not to be comparative in like a bad way, but we are the smallest by population. We have about 55,000 citizens in our region. Definitely not by, we're probably on average by total geographical area. We know there's a lot of underrepresented population in South County, and so we're taking a lot of efforts to reach out to Maupin, to Shaniko, to Antelope, to the reservation, really expand our reach to make sure there's representation everywhere. I am somewhat close with the person who does my job in the frontier region. He has the entire eastern half of Oregon, about the size of the state of Ohio. And he has about 200,000 people to capture there. He does a lot of driving, so I'm a little thankful that I don't have that one. So we look at how we want to meet the needs, and we form this in our implementation grant into 3 specific ways. And luckily there is some alliteration involved, and that makes it easy to remember. Number 1, we want to promote and prepare. We work one-on-one with entrepreneurs to navigate how to grow their businesses. And we work to develop a marketing campaign to showcase the region to investors. So in doing this, it is really tilling the ground. I'll come back to this analogy, but we use an ecosystem metaphor all the time, and it can become a little bit trite. I don't love using it because not everyone knows what that means, but when I do use it, I think about natural growth and how there are hard oak trees, there are little saplings, there are seeds that are planted, and there's ground to be plowed. And so we all know, like, if we're all in agreement, the Dalles is amazing. It's an amazing place. The whole gorge is an absolute dream for anybody to live in. And we want to make it easy for people to establish their businesses here. And we want to encourage people who might invest to also feel like they can be comfortable to go here. I see your question, Phil. I'll come back to that in a little bit. I'll have a little bit more for that later. We also link and leverage. So we link founders with existing resources in the gorge. Again, I'm going to define resources in just a second because it's a very broad term. We link service providers to another, and then we link the region with statewide resources. And we connect and convene. We organize events to bring people together, and we connect founders with existing networking events. And then let me just skip forward and I'll keep talking about this in just a second. One of the ways we do in this one-on-one business navigation, you can go to our website, which is midcolumbiainnovationhub.org, or easier to remember, mcihub.org. If you do /contact, it'll bring you directly to our contact page. But I encourage you to explore our website, play around with it. We have an event calendar there. We have an About Us. We also have a way of quickly booking a 30-minute one-on-one consultation through Calendly. But that lets you connect with us. It tells you about who we are. I'm hoping that we'll have this video on there before too long also. But we meet with businesses, have a one-on-one. Where are you at with your business? What are you looking for? How can we help? How can we connect you? And then we continue these consultations to make sure that they're supported as much as possible. For example, I have an entrepreneur I've met with. She makes a vegan butter, and I connect with her, heard about her business, what she's looking for, and I connected her with different resources through Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, accelerators. I connected her with the Skills Center. She needed a mold made for these protein bars that she's going to make. She went to Portland and got these quotes for hundreds of dollars. They needed like a $150 minimum to make this one 12 by 12 cookie cutter mold. And I connected her with Robert up at the College Skills Center, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we could do that. I'll have it by tomorrow, $12." So being the central resource to know, I probably won't answer every question, but I know the people who know the answers to the questions that our entrepreneurs will have. So we work as a hub and spoke system.
Hang on, Jacob. There is one question, and you may have covered some of this, but we'll go ahead and ask it. Where do some of your entrepreneurs go? Where are they looking for those investors? That's a question on the chat.
Yes. And I can answer that, and it'll probably answer it a little bit more as we go. It is a great question because there are so many answers to that I can't give an umbrella statement, because it depends on what kind of investors they're looking for. If they're looking for venture capital, if they're looking for angel investors, if they're looking for smaller capital. One thing that we are discovering is, let me back up to say this, in our survey of what the needs of our area were, we discovered that access to capital was a need for our population. We have also found that access to capital means a lot of things to a lot of people. What most people say when they say access to capital is they need money. A lot of times it's not investment capital. It doesn't fit for their business plan. It doesn't make sense for how they're trying to grow. A lot of times they are better, they can take better advantage of something like McKed's loan fund. If you aren't aware, McKed has a loan fund where we can do stack funding for entrepreneurs or small businesses. Even if you've been denied from a formal bank loan, we actually require that you be denied with a formal bank loan. And then we help guide you through the process of how we can build your business plan to get the amount of money that you need in a way that makes sense naturally to grow your business. So to answer your question, there are tons of ways. They are highly individual based on the business, and we really want to help guide the business or the entrepreneur to find the best resources that fits their needs. If that's a helpful non-answer, I hope that makes sense. The resources that we through these consultations that we meet with them, I like to say we fill in the part where you don't know what you don't know. This goes back to my experience in the catering business. As we were trying to grow our business, there was so much I didn't know about how to grow it. We were approached by angel investors. I didn't know if that was a good idea. I didn't know how much we would maybe be giving up. We didn't know if brick and mortar, we didn't know what was a good deal. We didn't have the mentors to quantify any of that. So I think all the time of, man, how helpful would it be if I just had someone who made themselves an expert on all of these answers? Well, they may not know the answers, but they know how to navigate it, kind of like a Sherpa on the Everest of scaling your own business. So we connect with business development coaching. The college is a big partner. Their small business development center is someone I refer 90% of the people I talk to, because a lot of people say, hey, I have an idea for a business, and that's about as far as they've gotten. And I'm like, great, let's foster that. I'll work with you. I'll ask some questions. I'll set you up for the SBDC, which supports our local community college, which I am forever a fan of. And they'll help you point you in the right directions. And we try to have a little bit of collaboration through that as well. We're putting together a mentorship program as well, which takes time. We're putting together the people that are interested in being mentors and then finding a need for mentorship as well. And some of that just comes through building a bigger network, not siloing ourselves and keeping us so separate, but sharing ourselves throughout the entirety of the ecosystem. One of the ways we're doing these networking meetings is through Hub Talks. Trying to have a monthly high value networking panel discussion, second Thursday of every month. We're servicing a large area, so we currently alternate from Hood River and Wasco County, kind of settled on the ruins in Hood River because it's big enough for everyone to fit. And just a great meeting place. We're still alternating between some places in the Dalles. We're actually going to be at Maupin Works in Maupin for our April Hub Talk. But we try to keep a variety of topics that is vague enough that it's interesting to everybody, but specific enough that it's not boring, I guess. So for example, we had a great talk. You can see on the bottom right picture, we had the gentleman from Monkey Brittle was there. We had Wes Lapp, who was formerly of Real Carbon. And we have Rudy Kellner from Free Family Brewers talk about innovation and what that meant for them. That was back in January. Then in February, on the upper picture, we were at the Skills Center at the community college, and we had tours of their facility to see. If you haven't been to the facility of the Skills Center, it is the #1 best kept secret of all the manufacturing and production equipment that they have that is open and available to individuals and small businesses who are working on prototyping. It's a great resource.
Real quick, we do have a question.
Sure.
How much of MCED's funding is federal and how secure is it with all that is going on in DC? So let me clarify, Brian, are you asking for MCED overall or for this program?
Well, McKidd overall, which I assume would be the funding source for this program, would it not be? So I just wonder how secure things are, because obviously there's some challenges right now.
Totally. So the fund, we've already received the funds for this project. We are funded through the end of June. It comes from Business Oregon's budget. I don't know how everything, I've looked at their budget. It's 200 pages long. Their next biennium budget is still going through Ways and Means. So we don't have exact information on that going forward. But this particular program is through Business Oregon. I think there's a very small percentage of that is coming from federal funding. So I'm not concerned that this is something that's going to end from federal decisions. That's not the anticipation. But I also don't know exactly how it's all going to play out, how much will be budgeted. We're anticipating that we will receive funding again into the next biennium When that starts and exactly how much it is, we don't know, but we'll find that out. But we anticipate it starting because it's part of their 10-year plan. The long-term goal would be something that can be self-funded. There's a little ways to go for that, because we don't want to just be another chamber that competes when people like Lisa and the team in Hood River are already doing such a fantastic job. So we want to figure out what looks natural to our population and go from there. So to answer your question, currently not subject to federal budget cuts.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So I just
Yeah.
worry about stuff that's happening right now that really impacts people on the local level. So I'm glad to hear you're hopefully secure.
Totally. Yeah, hopefully. I'll knock on some wood. So one of the next things that we're doing and supporting is we're coming alongside another business organ grant through the Rural Opportunity Initiative, which is specifically for Wasco County, is the Gorge Pitch Fest. If you aren't familiar, it's happening Thursday, May 29th at 5:30. We will have applications for businesses who want to apply open April 1st, which is 2 Tuesdays from now. We'll have some criteria of what we'll be looking for in the applicants. We will select 5 finalists from the Gorge to get on stage, share a 10-minute presentation. We are hoping, back to your question, Phil, we are hoping to really build some of these efforts this year. We're having good relationships with other industries throughout the state through OEN, other venture capital firms. We're trying to get the attention of more investors to come and pay attention to what's happening in the Gorge, to say, yes, I believe in this product. We want to support them. The Pitch Fest participants are pitching for non-dilutive prize money that's awarded through sponsorships. So investment is not currently being offered from us. However, we want to have them compete for some prize pool. We're hoping for over $30,000 in sponsorships this year, spread out through the 5 finalists, while also inviting investors here to find what they like, see what meets with their verticals, and hopefully invest. We want to represent the traded sector through this. Again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with food carts and restaurants, small business. I say this is someone who spent 15 years in restaurants, but we really want that investment factor to grow our local economy, to create more jobs, and then market and attract some of these investors here. Some things we're working on in the future as well. We are what's the word I'm looking for? We are pondering restructuring the Gorge Angel Investor Network. If you were around in 2008 until about 2013, we had the Gorge Angel Investor Network, collaborated with Innoventure out at the Hood River Marina, kind of a business incubator. It leaned heavily on staff, especially a couple of people. I've had a chance to interview some of the people who took place in that initiative, talk to them of what they could do better, of what they should look out for, of what pitfalls might have been there. We really want it to be organic and organized. Maybe it's not a fund, maybe it's a loose community of individual investors who might decide they want to come together and put up a fund together. We would love to get them involved on a more regular basis as we see more investment-worthy businesses pop up throughout the Gorge. We'll have continued growth for Pitch Fest as we make a statement for our region. We want to celebrate and grow a reputation in the Pacific Northwest. I'm starting with like low, conservative ambitions for the Pacific Northwest. I'd love to be a hot spot in the nation where we're attracting, Boston and Silicon Valley investors. But if we get some attention from Seattle and Bend, I'm going to be pretty happy about that. And as we grow and as the hub talks become, more populated, we want to continue to discover needs and fill them, and then support specific industries through cohorts. So we can have smaller groups that support that already exist, things that already exist. Columbia Gorge wine. We want to look into how agriculture and tech can work together and collaborate, because that really is a big future of our region. And then everyone will always have food and beverage, and we want to support those businesses the best that we can as well. I mentioned this earlier, but I always like to think about the ecosystem. There's different places and there's a need for everything. You know, these submergent smaller plants start to grow and they build way along the coastline and they create silt, and that's more fertile land for others to grow. Everything works together, and there are different places of development. You know, based on population, there are fewer small businesses and entrepreneurs in Sherman County than there are in Hood River, and Wasco kind of falls right in between them. And so we want to make sure we're tilling the land where it's necessary, watering the big oaks that exist, and making sure there's equity throughout, while supporting, speaking of federal funding and getting cut, we do want to support underrepresented populations. Wasco County, let me check my facts on here. Our region is about 30% Latino population, and we want to make sure that we see that 30% representation in the small businesses that we support. We have about half women, and so we're supporting small businesses and entrepreneurships and founders that provide access and equity for women as well. And how you can help is always the question. It's usually when someone's going to ask you for money. Since we're funded by a grant, I'm not asking for money, not yet. But we want awareness. Being here, you all as liaisons to the community, knowing what we do at the hub and MCED and being able to articulate that to others is so helpful. Having referrals, you may not be starting a business, you may not be an entrepreneur, but it's very likely you know someone who is or is thinking about it, or what I know exists out there, and I'm trying to continue to dig those up, are those people who, I have this idea, but I don't know how to start this business, so I'm not going to start this idea. My passion for this project is that no good idea gets overlooked because someone doesn't know how to navigate the process. That is something I don't want that to happen. I think there are so many great ideas that get squelched because they can't figure out the process. So please refer these people if you're like, hey, that's a good idea, or maybe you don't know if it's a good idea. Send them to me, send them to the hub, send them to our website, and let's talk and see if that's something that we can build up for them. And then attendance, you know, whether that's virtually by keeping up with what we're doing with the hub through our website, through our social media, or coming to our events through the Hub Talks. We're partnering with a lot of events with the GTA as well. Coming to the Pitch Fest, if we have it, if we host it, if you see our logo on it, come pay attention, see what's happening, because there's a lot of energy behind this, and it makes me really excited to see everything that can come in the Gorge. Some of the events that are coming up, we do have a Hub Talk in Hood River tonight. We're actually talking about investing. So Phil, if you'd like some more information, we're going to be at the Ruins tonight at 5:30. We have really great panel, actually. Greg Davis from Overwatch Imaging will be there. Sal DeAria from UBX Systems. They do smart AI building systems, particularly HVAC systems. And then we have Kara Toronto. She's the director and there's a word that's leaving my mind. She's the executive director of Oregon Entrepreneurs Network. She's also sat on the board for a number of Oregon angel funds. So we're going to talk about both sides of investment and giving investment and receiving it, where to look for it. And so I'm very excited for this discussion. I mentioned before on April 1st, we'll have registration open for Pitch Fest. Our April Hub Talk will be in Maupin, talking about some of the businesses that are happening up there, as well as hearing a pitch from a Maupin entrepreneur. May, we'll be back in Hood River at the Ruins. We will have selected our finalists for the Pitch Fest at that time. And so we'll have like a behind the scenes get to know you for some of those contestants. One more thing I'm really excited about, if anyone here knows someone who makes packaged foods or beverages, there is a marketplace pop-up and pitch on May 9th, the day after that Hub Talk. That's a partnership with Oregon Entrepreneurs Network as well, of where we're having it similar to a farmer's market with a focus on manufactured goods, or packaged goods, not manufactured. Letting these businesses not only sample and taste and sell their products, but also get up on stage and pitch their products and their business to potential investors that would be in attendance. And then culminating into the summer, before we'll probably take a little break sometime in June and July, as we do in the Gorge, with the Pitch Fest right before Memorial Day weekend on Thursday, May 29th at the Granada.
We do have one question.
That's a perfect time for it.
Yes, I tried to wait. What are common reasons that new businesses do not thrive, and what seems to be the secret of businesses that grow?
Ooh, that's a great question, Phil. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen because there's no more on this. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think that is one of the best things that I can give advice to anybody. We maybe have a business, you kind of get going without putting together a business plan of how you're going to make money, of how you're going to grow sustainably. Of some people they just get so busy. I think I borrow this from Lisa, that they get busy working in their business that they don't work on their business. So really going into a business with a plan in place is, I wouldn't say it's foolproof, but it is the common denominator when I see successful businesses. There's a difference between having a product and having a business. And you have a product that can have a big burst. It can be very popular. Why aren't you more successful? And then it goes on, and then they're working 80 hours a week and they're burnt out and they're done. Other reasons is cash flow, which has to do with planning as well. I'd say those two things is why businesses tend to not thrive.
And along with that, Jacob, along with the not working on it, sometimes there's a lack of difference between advertising and marketing. Marketing is truly working on your business and really telling your story. And sometimes we forget that. And we think by just putting our name here and there that we're going to do it. And I think sometimes our small businesses see that that's a trend, but they forget that they really need to tell their story so they can market that business, not the product. Forgetting to tell your why can make a huge impact. And it also reminds you every day what your why is, and why you're there through the tough times of that lack of cash flow. But yeah, you're hitting what we're hearing, the lack of planning, projecting for what's around the corner. Who knew the last 3 years, 4 years would have the corners that we did? And so no one can predict, but having that safety net, having that planning ahead, those businesses survived, and some of them thrived. They got that entrepreneurial spirit back, and they remembered and they pivoted with all of the needs, and they got creative and met a need and were able to keep their businesses going through COVID. And now through the economy, it's like, okay, what do I need to do to stay and survive? So we've seen that at the chamber. Some of those key pieces is making sure you have the energy to think that creative thoughts, how can I make it there, but planning ahead of that. So yes, definitely it comes down to working on it and not just in it, and being prepared and having that budget and that plan of attack.
Exactly. And sometimes there are hard questions, and I sit in with SBDC and some of their classes for business management and business planning, actually putting together a formal business plan, which they will help you do absolutely free. You ask some of these tough questions. How are you going to make money? Some people, they're like, oh, well, I'm going to sell this. Okay. What are your margins on this? How much are you actually going to make? How are you going to pay yourself? Are you going to hire an employee? How sustainable is that in the long run? Someone who knows these questions to ask is pivotal. And we want to connect those people through mentorship, through small business development. It takes many forms, but a lot of it it's opening yourself up to that constructive criticism, because we don't want to poo-poo all of your ideas just for the fun of it. We want to challenge your ideas so that you're more likely to be successful when you're starting small businesses.
Great question though, Phil. Thank you. Any other questions?
If I may jump.
Yeah.
Our emergency management team is concerned about food security in the Gorge region. We grow cherries, we grow wheat, but 99% of our food comes to us by way of I-84. In the event of a Cascadia event, or I can even think of fires, we'd be cut off from our supply. So our emergency management team is interested in developing more local food production, such that we would have something to eat and sustain ourselves in the event of an emergency. And so I've been trying to point our team to where are some places to look that are already thinking in the direction of more local food production. I'm thinking of examples like Azure Farms. Are there other places in the region like that I can connect them to?
That's a great question. I can tell you that this is a statewide, if not nationwide, question. Many people are asking this question in different ways. The food systems, they realize that if something catastrophic happens, things can get bad pretty quickly. Or we'll just be eating a lot of cherries, I guess. Maybe we'll be able to get a little bit of cattle. I don't have a great answer to that. Quickly off. I know there is currently some USDA grant funds available for especially discovering more local reproducible food systems. How long those grants will be available is anyone's guess. But that is something that the USDA and Department of Agriculture is taking pretty seriously and wants to provide grants to look into the feasibility of how we can make it more local in any way, shape, or form. So
it ties into the food distribution network. That I was thinking of another question. If I wanted to produce something that would go to one of our major chains, I'd have to have a lot of money to get them to put it on their shelves. The way the food distribution network it goes, it's not a local network; it's a nationwide network, and that's ties us into the problem that then we relied on that big chain that can break somewhere else.
Totally, and that's something that I really like about Azure. I would love to see even a little bit more there. You can see some models in Portland through Markets of Choice and Zupan's. Markets of Choice specifically, they have something that they call bridges that connects a food maker to the grocery organization. They also have, let's say I'm a small maker, small to medium, and I make enough to outfit 11 different stores with my product. Let's say I'm making tortilla chips. And I live close to a Market of Choice. I can drop off my shipment for the entire network at one store and they redistribute it. So there are some grocery small chains that are reconfiguring what this looks like. I hope it maintains a functional regional system and it just doesn't tend to become another Safeway Albertsons conglomerate. It takes money to get these started and get off the ground. They're competitive, but these are great outlets for entrepreneurship and innovation in our region. Any small rural area like ours could benefit greatly from some of those ideas. So,
And this is Brian. I spent 35 years in agriculture here, so I have a little bit of a background. I think you work through the farmers markets because obviously, unless you can grow enough to support Albertsons or Fred Meyer's, I mean, they deal in volumes. I mean, huge volumes. They're not going to deal with 20 acres or even 100 acres. They want they want volumes that they can support their stores. So I think you work on the smaller level and you work through the farmers markets to encourage smaller operations that can provide a variety. And also it takes infrastructure. You got to have water, folks. You got to have electricity. You got to have arable land. I mean, this country is dryland agriculture for a reason. It's not because, you know, we can't grow things, but you need water to do it. When you're in a 12 to 14 inch rainfall zone, that's not the valley. And so you have to provide all the infrastructure to allow that to happen. And obviously land use, when it goes back to Phil, you know, how the county manages land use planning here. You know, you don't want a bunch of 5-acre blocks. You want things that are economically viable as you know, I mean, I've done the economics here. You know, you need 100 acres or, you know, even cherry farms nowadays, unless you're several hundred acres, they're not viable anymore. I mean, you're going to see a consolidation of cherry orchards here in the future. But so, I mean, if you want to make that happen to be more sustainable, you got to, you know, you're going to need greenhouses. You're going to need a lot of these things that are going to take some money to do. So it can be done, but it takes the will and the resources to make it happen. So, but it can be done.
Absolutely.
My other question was with bike tourism. I'm seeing an opportunity when the Gorge Bikeway gets completed in a year or 2 or 3 or 4, that somebody can market, you know, we'll pick you up, or you know, beach at the airport, you ride to the Dalles, spend another day at a hotel in the Dalles, take advantage of our great bike riding here in South County, and then we'll shuttle you back to the airport. Has anybody talked about, have you
Oh.
heard anybody kicking those ideas?
Just so you know, Phil, there is busing and all of that with the cat, and there is bike racks on those.
Yeah.
So they're pushing those because then you're doing a larger and less vehicles going back and forth. So there are busing, and it comes all the way here, and then it goes all the way back, and there's different stops along the way, obviously. So I know that they're also looking at some other, on the other end of the gorge of doing that. So there is some stuff, and it's not to say that someone can't tap into that. I do know that there are some efforts, though, being thought of, that's even talked at the Historic Highway Commission, Advisory Commission. And we've got quite a few bike guys in there. So they're looking at those options. But right now they're encouraging them to use the transportation that goes from Portland all the way here. And they've equipped them with bike racks too. So that way we can accommodate that and have less traffic.
I've used that system. It's great. Like I'll put my bike on the bus, go to Hood River, babysit, and then ride my bike back home. And they're finishing a link from Lyle to the Dalles, which would enable a really good trip from the Dalles up to Goldendale, over High Prairie, drop down to Lyle, and then get on the bus and come back to the Dalles. You can avoid Highway 14, which is terrorizing, terrible. Yeah.
Do notice that in the chat, Jacob has dropped 2 different links in there. One is to their website, and the other, I'm assuming, is for one of their events coming up. And so you can grab one of those, and then do that on their website. They talk about the different events coming up and the dates and stuff. And so that way you can be a part of that in those discussions. I missed the last one. I could not be in 3 places at once. I haven't figured that one out. I can do it digitally, but I can't do it physically. So had to miss that event. So, but I heard it was just our skill center is amazing that we have and what they do. So, and then SBDC, you said you refer a lot, so do we. Poor Greg probably gets inundated with all of our referrals, because it's like, you got to go see SBDC so you can kick the tires together to see if that's going to work. But yeah. And then, do you have anything that you want to add, Jacob, before be respectful and dodge off to begin our days?
No, I think I appreciate all of your time coming here. My funny story is, before I worked with MCED, I had friends who worked with Business Oregon and MCED, and I remember people asking what they did, and I said, I know it's some bureaucrat position. And I'm like, that's about all I can say for them. And I'm like, I go to their LinkedIn profile and I say, oh, that's what they do. Okay, now I know their title, but I don't know exactly what they do. And so, any increased knowledge to explain what MCED does and what the hub does, even what Business Oregon does, is incredibly helpful. So that, kind of like you were saying earlier, Lisa, in a way, starting this project has felt like starting a small business. And there's a difference between advertising and marketing. And I appreciate you all letting me tell the story of the hub, and I hope it was helpful. You can qualify yourselves to then, if you meet and encounter anybody who might make use of our services, you can coherently explain what we're doing and how we can help.
Sounds great. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time, Jacob. So now you guys have all that website and you know where to go when that happens. And you have an opportunity so that we can make sure that we grow our businesses smart and that they have the best tools to help them have successful business. It takes a village, and we have a pretty good one with all kinds of resources from every corner. So I appreciate that we're all trying to foster and make sure that we have a successful, thriving community. So with that, thank you again. Thank you all for being here, and have a great weekend, and enjoy when that sun peaks out there. Pop out there and take a deep breath. And then if you do have any questions, just send us an email or call us. We love it even when you stop in. So whatever we can do to help. There are events happening next week and the following week that are networking. So please check our community calendar on the Dalles Chamber. Cherry Festival is in full swing. So if you're looking for something, just give us a call. We'll be there to help. And with that, everyone have a great Thursday and take care.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.